Welcome to another edition of Hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. This is Second City Sports. We're live and in living color, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app because you want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, so you can catch any of our live shows, including this one, Second City Sports, which you're watching us on the Sports Zone Chicago app right now. If you don't have that Sports Zone Chicago app, download it today because if you miss any of our live shows, you can catch them on the replay. You can watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Excuse me. You can also follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this program, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. And if you have any questions and or opinions about any of our topics during today's show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid or just want to come in here and start trouble, we do not allow that. And Lakeena will politely give you the beer lane beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love saying that. Lakeena, let's kick off this Hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports by discussing some NBA basketball. In particular, the 28-15 Chicago Bulls. They'll host the Milwaukee Bucks tonight on ESPN in Milwaukee at 7 o'clock Chicago time. But before we preview tonight's game, we had to go over their last victory on Wednesday at the UC against the upstart Cleveland Cavaliers, which they were victorious 117-104. DeMar DeRozan had a game-high 30 points. Nikolai Vujicic, the most Bulls fans' whipping boy, he added 24 points and 12 rebounds. Kobe White starting in the place of the injured Lonzo Ball, who will be out 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury. He chipped in with 16 points, including 5 and 11 shooting. Ayo Dosunmu, Chicago's very own from Morgan Park in the University of Illinois, he added 18 points and 3 rebounds, along with 8 assists and as he continues to start as well in 39 minutes of action. Lakeena, it was important for the Bulls to get back on track. I know some people want to still overlook the Cleveland Cavaliers as being an team, but I think as we talked about over the last few weeks, this Cleveland team is here to stay. They're going to be competitive from now to the end of the regular season, competing for the playoffs. But getting back to the Bulls, since we know that Lonzo Ball is going to be out to a little bit after the All-Star break, which is in about less than a month from now. So with his injury down, with Lonzo Ball's injury out the way, he's going to be gone for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Alex Caruso came back. He made a huge impact in 23 minutes of action. I like the way that Kobe White has been playing with Ayo Dosunmu. Those two looks like they're going to be a tandem until Lonzo Ball gets back. But it was imperative for Vucevic to become that second guy. He got it started on Wednesday night in that victory against Cleveland.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, Lonzo's going to be gone for a little bit. Zach's going to be gone until next week. So you wonder who's going to step up. And, we got that nice little tandem of Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu now. Scored 34, points combined, making the big plays like to keep, the Bulls, ahead of the Cavs as they were, Cavs trying to catch up, but, they put a run together and they were able to pull away late. Also, too, getting Caruso back is huge because you can tell how much of a difference maker he is. Being the sort of like the rim starter and sort of like the facilitator on the offensive side. Vooch, look, I know Vooch loves to. I know Bulls Twitter loves to tease Vooch, but look, he showed you why that you have him, 24 and 12. So it's sort of one of those things. Of course, DeRozan did what he usually does, and we got some nice bench coaching from guys like Matt Thomas, who I know Bulls fans are a little bit hesitant towards him, but I guess there's a reason why they kept him. Also Malcolm Malcolm Hill, didn't really do too much, but he kind of, did his thing and kind of kept everything going. And then look, they're going to be doing this for a while with, Alonso being out for about, till the very least March, like early March. So, this is what you want to, if you're a Bulls fan. Look, if we'll see if Cleveland is still up here. They might run out of gas. I don't know, because they've got some injuries too. They might come back to bite them in the butt too as we get closer and closer to the playoff push. But look, if Lonzo has to get him back for the playoff push, just do what you're supposed to do. Just try to keep it going. And look, they got some pretty tough games. They got a tough one tonight against Milwaukee. Everybody is banged up right now in NBA. No one, is like at full strength. Milwaukee is not at full strength. So I think the Bulls should be able to keep it close. This is gonna be this is the first meet between these two teams this year, believe it or not. So I'm really interested to see what, sort of like how they measure up, even though they're shorthanded too.
You're listening to Second City. No, I'm unmuted. You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and living color. Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, as we talk about the Chicago Bulls going back to Wednesday's win against Cleveland, talk to us about the importance of Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu in that starting lineup now since Lonzo Ball's gone. I noticed a couple of things when I watched those two on the court at the same time on Wednesday. Kobe White is becoming a better facilitator. And his scoring average is up because he's starting now. He averaged, I saw a stat that said that he averaged 11 points coming off the bench this year. But when he was in the starting lineup, he averages close to 15 points a game. I noticed that Ayo Dosunmu, as I said on this show from the start of the season, because Kobe White started the year on the injury list, any playing time that he got for the first 2 months is going to pay off for him come now. And it looks like now with the injury to Lonzo Ball, Ayo Dosunmu is playing defense. He cuts to the basket. Don't forget, he's a great facilitator as well. And all the extra playing time that he's getting right now is going to pay off for the Bulls in more ways than one as we get towards the end of the season and head into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's going to be what you want, especially with, the fact that you're still shorthanded. I mean, Kobe White has, come back from injury himself. Ayo stepped up now. With Zach a little banged up, Lonzo's going to be gone for a little bit. You need those two. I'm talking about White and Ayo to step up and kind of be sort of keep everything going and sort of don't mess up. And I think that's going to be the key here. And I think both of them are showing you that they are actually a really good guard tandem. I mean, Kobe's more the point guard, Ayo's more the shooting guard. So I think both kind of mesh well together as a tandem. So I think that's why you're going to be seeing this for the next couple of games until Zach comes back. You're probably going to see both of them kind of rotate, until Lonzo's able to come back. So if they can keep up what they did against Cleveland, and do it because they got some tough games coming up, as I said. They can kind of be right there and sort of keep the Bulls right up there at the top. Maybe not the 1 seed in the East, but definitely in the 2 to 3 range.
On the flip side for Cleveland, former Chicago Bull Lauri Markkanen had a team-high 28 points. Darius Garland, who should be an all-star for the Cleveland Cavaliers, he had 20 points along with 12 assists. Evan Mobley, who should be a top rookie candidate for Rookie of the Year, he added 18 points. And Jarrett Allen, their big man in 36 minutes of action, he had 6 points and 10 rebounds. As we said before, Lakeena, this Cleveland team is a nice young squad, and you had to give their front office credit for building up a nice and young, talented team. Too bad Colin Sexton isn't there because he's gone with an injury for the entire season. But as I said before, watching that game the other night, and I said this on the show too many of times as we talked about the NBA abroad, this Cleveland team, they're right there a couple of games behind the Bulls in Milwaukee for the top spot in the East. Who would have thought that? I'm not sit here and say they're going to take the top spot between now and the end of the regular season, but they're not going to go anywhere. And you cannot look at the schedule and say that Cleveland is an easy team to beat now. It's just not going to happen.
Well, Rubio's out too with the ACL tear, so you got to think that
too,
both those teams, both those players are gone, for the year, and we'll see. Maybe Sexton might be back for the end of the season, but I don't know if they're going to be able to. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep it up. I think, look, Evan Mobley's definitely right there among the leaders for Rookie of the Year, but I feel like not having Rubio, not having Sexton, who were sort of a big part as to why Cleveland is where they are right now. You wonder that, not having them there, will that come back to bite them? But look, JB Bickerstaff, has done a great job. Like you said, that front office has done a great job of, setting up this roster. Kevin Love, who's a name that, we thought we would never hear from again. among the active NBA players, but he's contributing too off the bench. So we'll see where they go. Like, still got a lot. We're only about halfway through the season, so we're more than halfway through the season now, I should say. So depending on how your team schedule is and such, but we'll see. I mean, look, I think Laurie, I think definitely has found a home. He's definitely contributing more, it seems, now that he's with the Cavs. But again, it's going to be one of those days where we'll see where this team is by the All-Star break.
Now, tonight's game between the Bulls and the Bucks can be seen nationally on ESPN at 7 o'clock. It can be seen locally on NBC Sports Chicago, so we'll get Adam Amini and Stacey King starting at 7 o'clock Chicago time. But check out our guy, Jason Goff, on NBC Sports Chicago locally here in Chicago at 6:30 with the pregame show. Lakeena, what I'm looking forward to tonight's game against Milwaukee, I was looking forward to this game since the schedule came out. Of course, it's going to stink without Zach LaVine being there tonight. And of course, Lonzo Ball's not going to be there either. But I'm still looking forward to this game because I want to see how the Bulls defend Giannis Antetokounmpo. How will they defend Chris Middleton, who proved to be that second guy with Giannis last year during their title run? I want to see how they defend Giannis tonight. Will they double team him every time? How much will they double team him? And on the offensive end, can DeMar DeRozan adjust to teams defending him now, especially since Zach won't be back to sometime next week? How will DeRozan carry this Bulls team? And will Vucevic keep up the effort like he did the other night against Cleveland?
Yeah, I think that's also going to be the thing too with them. And look, people also need to remember too, the Bulls are not at full strength. I think people need to remember, like you said, Zach's out, Lonzo's out. So I don't think this is going to be a fair to kind of measure against them against the Bucks, who they're still having issues too. They're not at full strength either. I mean, they're just now starting to get their guys back. So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, Giannis. I mean, I'm sure DeRozan will probably have the assignment of having to guard Giannis. He's done it before, so I'm sure that's going to be very interesting to see how that mesh up here. Middleton. Hopefully, we'll get good Vooch tonight, and it's going to be it's definitely going to be the role players. I mean, how's Io going to play against? I'm sure Drew Holiday. I'm sure once he comes off the bench, I'm sure he's going to be asked to guard him. So Connaughton is also he contributes a lot too off the bench too for the Bucks. So yeah, it's going to be a very good game tonight. Look, as long as you don't get your butts kicked, if you're the Bulls on national television, which has fortunately been the case the last couple of games you've been on national television, as long as you don't get your butts kicked. Well, yeah, but it's true. I mean, as long as you don't get your butts kicked, as long as nobody, you'll get blown out of the water by Milwaukee, which I don't think they will. I mean, I think that's you got a seasoned team now that's used to putting up a fight, shorthanded or not. So, I expect this to be a really close game. I mean, if will the Bulls win? Yeah, that might be hard to do, considering that they know Zach and know Lonzo, but I think it'll be close. They won't get their butts kicked. I'll say that.
I agree with you, Lakeena. We know that the players know that this is an important game against a divisional rival, and it's also your conference rival as well. As you're trying to battle it out for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. We'll get to more of the East and the rest of the NBA as a whole after this short timeout. But as far as tonight's game is concerned, I think the Bulls will be very competitive. They know the situation. It's been the next man up mentality for this Bulls team all season long. This is the first real adversity outside the COVID surge a couple weeks ago during the Christmas holiday that this team has gone through all year. But I think they'll be competitive tonight. And I think Milwaukee will be looking over their shoulder for the rest of the season and say, well, this Bulls team is for real, and we got a fight on our hands to compete against this team. Once again, tonight's game can be seen locally on NBC Sports Chicago at 7 p.m., while you folks nationally can watch that game at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN. It's the bottom of the hour. We had to take our 2-2 break. When we return, we'll discuss the rest of the NBA. Is the Los Angeles Lakers heading for a free fall? And we'll give you the biggest games from this upcoming weekend in the National Basketball Association. And we'll get into some college basketball. There's an important game tonight locally, and we'll give you the rest of the schedule for the top 25 for this coming weekend. And Lakeena will give you the latest search for the GM and the head coach for the Chicago Bears. Yes, we are complex. And so we'll try to sort through that mess. Along with Lakeena McGee, I am Cindy Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. You can follow Lakeena at Keena McGee on the Twitter. Lakeena, and also too, if you have a question or comment for us during any of our topics of today's show, since we have less than 90 minutes remaining, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your question or comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. As we continue to talk basketball, let's go abroad. Lakeena, let's talk about the rest of the NBA. The LeBron James and his Los Angeles Lakers are now 22-23 on the season. They'll start their East Coast Grammy road trip tonight as they'll take on the Orlando Magic at 6 o'clock Chicago time. But beforehand, Lakeena, they lost their last game to the Indiana Pacers in ugly fashion by the score of 111-104. Russell Westbrook, their star point guard, who LeBron James brought in over the summer. They chose him over Buddy Hield and our guy, DeMar DeRozan of the Chicago Bulls. Westbrook was benched during the remaining 3 minutes and 52 seconds of that game. Indiana went on a run. Caris LeVert carried the team. Domantas Sabonis, their multi-year all-star, carried the load for the Pacers as well. Lakeena, I did get a chance to watch some of that Lakers post-game show on Spectrum Sportsnet via my computer screen. And I don't know if you saw the picture that went around on the internet. I was watching it live. James Worthy, the Basketball Hall of Famer and the Laker great Big Game James, he had his head on the desk standing next to Robert Horry before they started their post-game show. And he said he was running out of words. He was disgusted of what's going on with the Lakers right now. Lakeena, the word has been around the Lakers and around the league that Frank Vogel, their current head coach, he could be let go any day now. He's basically coaches for his job. We talked about this before, Lakeena. It's not really much that the Lakers could do in terms of reshaping this roster. This is what you get now. What else can the Lakers do at this point?
I don't think there's anything they can do. And just when you thought that, they got the big win against Utah on Monday, but then they lose against the Pacers and everything that transpired before that. So, look, this is how LeBron constructed. I mean, it's worked, for some of the teams. It worked in Miami. They won a couple of championships, but it's not working. Now that everyone's a little bit older, it's not working this time. So, Westbrook, can you trade Westbrook? I don't think you can. I mean, who are you going to trade him for? And, you could have had Buddy Hield. Hey, you could have had DeRozan, a hometown kid, but, you decide to go with Westbrook instead. And now look what happened. So, I know that Frank, Vogel is on the hot seat. He has been on the hot seat since they had this, not so consistent start and, their Grammy road trip. Of course, the Grammys are not going to have been postponed until March, in Vegas. But of course, this is supposed to be the road trip anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do in this road trip. I mean, if they don't do well in this road trip, you just forget about it. I'm sure they play Orlando tonight, and I'm sure the crowd's going to be louder for Vogel to get the job because someone's got to take the heat. You can't get rid of the players because you have the contracts are not very good. You got to the coach is probably going to be the fall guy, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens as the Los Angeles Lakers, as we mentioned, start their road trip tonight in Orlando. Of course, they have the Miami Heat on Sunday. And we'll get into the Heat in just a moment, Lakeena. But let's start out with last night's action. We'll go backwards as we always do as we reviewed the week there was in the National Basketball Association. Both the games that were televised on TNT last night, it was the Phoenix Suns over the Dallas Mavericks, 109-101. The Phoenix Suns pulled away late. The Dallas Mavericks, who have been playing well over these last couple of weeks, Lakeena, we sounded the alarm as far as Jason Kidd squad because they struggled to start off good coming out the gate of the season, but they got it together as of late. But they ran into a roadblock with the Phoenix Suns at home last night, and of course the Indiana Pacers, as we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Sabonis sat down last night. No Miles Turner, no Malcolm Brogdon. They got a 121-117 overtime win at Golden State last night.
Yeah, and it's amazing what the job that Rick Carlisle's done. They beat both LA teams, and I don't think anybody. I mean, both the Lakers and the Warriors now, and you feel like you wonder where maybe I guess the trade rumors have been floating around. I mean I know Turner's out, probably will be out till after the trade deadline, so that's a kind of an interesting a little development there. But it's sort of,
Hmm.
yeah, I wonder, he's been in such a trade rumors. I know it's a bonuses as well, but Turner is sort of like the guy that people want. So, makes you go, But back to this game. I mean, Duarte had 27, which is a season high for him. Levert stepped up with some big points too. And look, they were sure they weren't intimidated by the Warriors. I mean, you thought maybe the Warriors, were going to be the Warriors, and everyone. I know Draymond's still out with, I know Draymond's still out. I know, Clay is still on a minutes restriction, so he only had 12. But I think if you're the pace, you could take this win. All 5 of your stars were in double figures, so led by Duarte. So I think, look, I don't know if I think we know that Indiana is probably gonna trade a lot of these guys at some point. Turner being one of them. Of course, his injury, but yeah, it'll be interesting what happens here, because this is gonna be one of those games where if you're a Warriors fan, don't freak out. Just put the cast aside. It happens. You're 32 and 13, so you're fine.
Yeah, and they are 5-7 since Christmas, as the TNT crew noted last night. Of course, for the Indiana Pacers, this was their first back-to-back road wins of the season. Lakeena, let's go to back to Wednesday's action. The Nets beat the Wizards 119-118 as they start their journey without Kevin Durant. He's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks with the knee injury. Did you see that crazy play that one of the Brooklyn assistant coaches touched the ball and Kyle Kuzma got upset, and rightfully so. And that was a pivotal play that turned the game around for both teams. The Wizards went downhill. The Brooklyn Nets took advantage, and of course, Kyle Kuzma displayed his anger during the presser again. Lakeena, the Brooklyn Nets. I'll get to my broader point about the East in just a moment. But do you think that Brooklyn can tread water just like the Bulls need to tread water until their stars return?
I think they're going to have to. I know they got a tough schedule. They play San Antonio tonight. I mean, I'm wondering though, can they do it though? I think they can. I mean, look, Katie's gonna be out about 4 to 6 weeks, so it's gonna get very interesting to see. Harden's gonna have to step up. Kyrie's not gonna have to, say anything or do anything stupid. I mean, they kind of have to, tread lightly here. Patty Mills, is gonna have to step up. So, LaMarcus Aldridge, he's still around. I know he stepped up in that game against Washington, a couple of days ago. So, yeah, it's gonna get very interesting though, and I feel like this is sort of one of those things where this is sort of a test to. Look, this is like they have not been played at full strength yet. So again, another setback. KD is out now, so it's going to get very interesting. And I want to go back to that Philly Orlando game, because a lot of stuff happened on Wednesday. Embiid had 50 points and 12 rebounds in less than 30 minutes. That's the fewest points played. That's the fewest minutes played in a 50-point, 10-plus rebound game since the shot clock era back in the 50s. So a lot, that's huge. And also too, I know Philly bounced back from that loss to Washington on MLK Day on Monday. So this is a nice bounce back win for them. Let's see, Miami had a nice win against Portland, by 8 points. And look, I know they've been kind of, everybody's been, they're not having it full strength either. Speaking of, I know Jimmy's coming back from, fresh off an injury. So, and Miami is still 29-16. They still have the one of the top records in the East. They're right up there with the Bulls. Caleb Martin had 26 points off the bench. So, they've getting contributions from guys that off the bench, because everyone's been banged up. Whether I know our girl Lana Techire is actually having having a time with this. So I think Miami. Look, they've been we know we commend the Bulls for keeping things going. We keep commend the Nets and also too, but I think the Heat needs to also, in particular, Eric Spoelstra should get some love for keeping their squad going despite all the injuries they've had, and also the COVID issues too.
Yeah, he should get some consideration for Coach of the Year too. I'm not saying he didn't do a good job when he had LeBron, Wade, and Bosh down there, but over these last few years, he has done his greatest coaching job, I believe, of his career. As we mentioned before on the show, that outside of Jimmy Butler, they have no real superstars that are mainstream household names. They have the right guys playing the right roles, and they come together as a team. And they almost mirror the Chicago Bulls as far as this season. If you want to keep it a buck, as you young folks would say. As far as guys in line the lineup, whoever's out the lineup, the next man up, they step in, they know they role, they know what to do, and they execute it to perfection. As I said before, and I'll say it again, this Miami Heat team, they may not go to the finals like they did a couple years ago during the pandemic, but they're going to be tough out for someone come playoff time.
Absolutely. And like I said, Phoenix, had the big win against San Antonio. Dallas, Luka, edge out OKC by 2. So a lot of things happen. Also, the Clippers, a barn burner against the Pacers, 139, 133. I mean, that game was just crazy. I got a chance to take the highlights of that, and that was just a crazy game to watch too on Wednesday. So a lot of crazy things happening on over this weekend on that on MLK Day. Also, too, that Wednesday game also, to the Timberwolves are just kind of right there at 500. They beat the Knicks by a deuce. It was actually the 3-point play by Karl Anthony Towns that propelled them, the T Wolves, against the Knicks. So what do you think, Bill? What do you think of Minnesota's chances of perhaps maybe going to make kind of like good into that play-in game?
They're right there. As we talked about early in the season, Lakeena, they got out to a nice start. And as I told to me about the Timberwolves after a month in, they're still hanging around. Of course, like everybody else, they went through their COVID issues with their injuries with D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. They're still right there. And can they hang around? Sure, they can hang around. But I'm not saying this team is going to be the surprise like the Cleveland Cavaliers are this year, but I think they can still hang around. No one's talking about it, but they keep collecting and win somehow. They'll be right there at the end of the season. I like them, unfortunately, better than those Sacramento Kings. Even though Sacramento Kings had the better talented roster, Minnesota finds a way to play together and be more consistent than the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of, it's probably going to be between those two teams. Unfortunately, with everything going on with Sacramento, I don't know. Maybe they probably won't be up there for the playoff push, but again, we'll see. So a very, like I said before, very I don't want to say adventurous week in the NBA, but definitely, one for the record books. Also, too, CP3 recorded his 13th triple double on against the Mavs. A couple of nights. Saying in that game, he passed Tim Hardaway for the most by any player since individual turnovers for first track. That's the fewest turnovers. So 0 turnovers though for Mr. CP3. So showing you that he still got it, like yesterday's game. So showing that he still has it, and that the Phoenix is definitely still up there in the Western Conference.
Yeah, so we mentioned the Phoenix Suns. They got an important win at Dallas last night. They may not be the team that they were a year ago, but I think they're a better team. We talked about JaVale McGee. They added him in the offseason. He patrols the middle. He's been a veteran of playing for many winning teams throughout his career. He was with the Warriors a few years ago as the Warriors were going through their championship run the last couple of years in 2018 and 2019. So he has a couple of championship rings from them. I wish he was on the Bulls right now, given their interior defensive issues. But with that being said, Phoenix is going to be right there. DeAndre Ayton starting to find his game. Devin Booker is one of the best young scorers that we have in the game today. So Phoenix will be a tough out as well. They may not be the team as they were a year ago, but they're going to cause some problems in that Western Conference come playoff time.
Real quick before we go to the this weekend's games, speaking of guys that the Bills should get. Apparently, news came out yesterday that Paul Millsap, they're he's with the Nets now, but he's not contributing. He doesn't really fit. Some people said that maybe the Bulls, because remember, it was between them and the Nets for Millsap. Millsap ended up going to the Nets, and it's not going well for him. So maybe perhaps could he be going to the Bulls?
He wouldn't be bad, but at his age, Lakeena, and even though he'll bring veteran experience to the Bulls team, how much can he give you? He's not a starter anymore. Can he give you 10, 15 minutes? If he can, so be it. But I just wondering how much can he give you?
Yeah, that's good. Like you said, that's going to be the number one question. How much can, Mr. Millsap contribute? Listeners, I can see sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Cindy Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. Let's go to this weekend's games real quick, Sid. Right, a lot of great Friday games. Of course, you got OKC and Charlotte. We talked about the Lakers and the Magic, Clippers and Philly. That should be a fun one at 6:00. Miami and Atlanta. That should be a fun one as well. And Portland continues their East Coast trip, I should say, as they face Atlanta.
Well, they'll face the Boston Celtics. So of
But,
course the
the
Celtics.
Celtics, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the
for
Celtics
them,
are at 500. Right.
Miami,
Right.
Miami's facing Atlanta,
Yeah.
so.
The Trailblazers, as you mentioned, they'll continue their East Coast trip at Boston. That's tonight at 6:30. Of course, the Raptors, who are at 500. Watch out for Scotty Barnes. He could be in play for Rookie of the Year as well. And they'll take on the Wizards tonight at 7 o'clock in our nation's cap. Of course, we mentioned Bulls and Bucks on ESPN at 7 o'clock, locally on NBC Sports Chicago. At the same time, you have Memphis at Denver tonight at 8 o'clock. That should be fun. I know ESPN will probably be kicking themselves if it was for the X Games. That game will probably been the second game of a Friday doubleheader, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. You mentioned Spurs and the Nets. Detroit, they'll play Utah tonight at 8 o'clock as they continue on their West Coast trip, rather. The Rockets and the Warriors will round out the Friday night schedule. That's at 9 p.m. tonight.
All right, some good ones here. Also, a couple of good ones on Saturday. You got Sacramento and Milwaukee. Milwaukee coming off a back-to-back, of course, with the game against the Bulls tonight. Also, OKC in Cleveland. That's going to be the NBA TV game. That should be a fun one at 7 o'clock. And remember, no Saturday night game for on ABC this week, but there's should be a good one here. Indiana continues their West Coast trip as they face Phoenix.
Yeah, can they pull off a third upset win on the road? We'll see. As like you mentioned, they'll take on one of the hottest teams in the league in the Phoenix Suns. And let's wrap up the weekend slate by going to Sunday's action. The Clippers will continue their East Coast road trip. They'll take on the Knicks at MSG at high noon, right before the football games. At 2:30, we'll have Boston at Washington to take on the Wizards. At 5 p.m., this will be the NBA TV game. The Lakers will travel to South Beach to take on the Miami Heat. At 5 o'clock, at the same time, we'll have the Bulls against the Orlando Magic from Orlando, from the Magic Kingdom. Still at 5 p.m. on Sunday, Portland at Toronto. At 6 o'clock, we'll have Atlanta at Charlotte. Yeah. Of course, the Hornets to still continue to surprise some people as well. They upset Boston on ESPN on the road on Wednesday. The Sixers and the Spurs at 6 p.m. The Grizzlies and the Mavericks at 6:30 p.m. That's a good Sunday
That
night
should be
tilt.
fun. Can't wait for that one. That should be a
Of
fun
course,
one.
and then you have Brooklyn and Minnesota take on the Timberwolves at 7 o'clock. And rounding out the Sunday night schedule, the Pistons are at Denver to take on the Nuggets at 7. And then rounding out the Sunday night NBA TV doubleheader at 7:30, we'll have the Utah Jazz against the Golden State Warriors.
That should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, Donovan Mitchell too will be able to play that game. I know he's in concussion protocols. I know he hit his head pretty hard earlier this week, so hopefully he'll get cleared to play that game. I know he missed the game against Houston. They really didn't need him. They were able to. Houston actually unfortunately pull off the upset. They beat him by 5. So hopefully Mitchell can come back for that game on Sunday because they really need him.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. Don't forget, we'll have our good friend from Fansided.com, NFL reporter and insider Matt Vetteram will join us to give us his take on the Chicago Bears front office situation, and he'll give us his picks for the divisional round. Which starts tomorrow. 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, but that's coming up at the top of next hour. Lakeena, let's get into some college basketball since we have a few minutes remaining in this segment. An important game tonight for our Fire in Line. They're ranked number 17 in the country. They'll travel to Maryland to take on the Terrapins. That's tonight at 6 p.m. on FS1. They'll be without Kobe Coburn because Kobe suffered a concussion in Monday night's double overtime loss at home to the Purdue Boilermakers. So Illinois will be a man down tonight. And so this is going to be an important game for Illinois, but they're checking in at 13-4 on the season. Maryland's at 9-9. I know Illini is favored by 4.5 still. I think the Illini still have enough talent on paper to get it done.
Yeah, I think they can. I know that Maryland's been having some issues. Mark Turgeon, their longtime coach, resigned earlier this season right before conference play. Danny Manning has been keep trying to hold down the fort. They've been struggling, a bit. They're
that's
right
a name from our childhood.
yeah, right. So he's been coaching. Of course, he did TV for ESPN last year, became an assistant coach, and now he's an interim coach. So he's doing what he can to keep everything afloat there. But they've had some various issues, guys leaving, and things like that. So we'll see what happens. But not having Cockburn there, you got to think that might be. I'm not saying Illinois should be on upset alert, but without Coburn, I mean that might be a bit that might be tough to do. But again, we'll see. Maryland's a pretty scrappy team, so we'll see what happens. Probably the game of the night in that sense will be after that game, the second half of that doubleheader, Michigan State and Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin,
Mhm.
people thought Michigan State would be up there. I don't think anybody thought Wisconsin would be up there. So they're right there in the top three in the Big Ten. And that should be a fun one over up there in Madison. So, always when these two teams play each other, there's always, definitely a battle there. And Johnny Davis, from Wisconsin, he's making a case definitely not only for for conference player of the year, but
Mhm.
perhaps maybe national player of the year. So if you guys have not seen him yet, check it out. He's been like a kind of like a one, I don't want to say he's a one man, crew for the Badgers, but he's definitely been the reason why the Badgers are where they are right now. So yeah, that should be a fun one tonight up there in Madison, at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, we know that the Michigan Spartans head coach Tom Izzo always has his guys ready to play. So I want to see how Tom Izzo defends Mr. Davis tonight. So that should be fun. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. That's following Illinois and Maryland on FS1 starting tonight. Lakeena, let's review a couple of games quickly that happened earlier this week. I was congratulations to Loyola. Uh, the Ramblers of Chicago, they defeated
Mm-hmm.
Evansville 77-48. Mr. Valentine has his team ranked number 22 in the country. But the couple of games I wanted to review with you, Lakeena, to get your thoughts. Number 6 Duke, they went down to Tallahassee and got beaten overtime by the Florida State Seminoles, 79-78. Wisconsin defeated Northwestern here in Chicago. Chicago's Big Ten team, 82-76 on Tuesday. But I want to
Mm-hmm.
get your thoughts first on this game. I did watch some of the highlights of this one. Porter Moser, the former Loyola coach, he's coaching Oklahoma. They lost a tough one to Kansas by 3,
Yeah.
67-64.
Yeah, they actually had a chance to win that game too. I saw a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of that, and yeah, they just Kansas showed you why they're right there in contention for the Final Four. They got some great players there. We'll get to that in a second, but going to that Duke Florida State game. I mean, Leonard Hamilton. We talked about him earlier this week, of course. The late great Joe B.
Mm-hmm.
Hall gave him his start when he was at Kentucky. So, but now look at him now. He won his 55th win. He got his 55th win against the AP Top 25 team when unranked. That's the most by any coach during the AP era, passing, Bob Knight, who did it 54 times. They've now won the Seminoles I'm talking about now, won 13 straight overtime games, extending the longest streak in D1. And look, they beat North Florida yesterday too. That was a makeup game because they were having COVID issues earlier in the season. So no letdown for them. They might be ranked next week. Who knows? But yeah, that should be a fun one. I mean, Northwestern, Wisconsin, that was a weird game. If you saw the last couple of minutes of that game, Northwestern
Yeah.
also had their chance to kind of pull off another upset, but it wasn't meant to be. So, there were some timing issues and such. We won't get into it because it's a little bit weird. But, we'll it's just, it should be, yeah. I mean, it's been a really fun weekend. Of course, Morehead State, beat Belmont. Those are the top two teams in the Ohio Valley Conference. I talked to you about that, guys, about that game earlier this week. So lots of good, lots of great games. USC bounced back against Colorado. They lost a couple in a row. UCLA also bounced back. They beat Utah at Utah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're starting to kind of get back on track. Now going to tomorrow's games. Syracuse
One
and
more
Duke.
game to note from last night. Congratulations to our colleague and friend of the show, Shea Pebble of
Oh
ESPN,
yes.
Chicago's
Oh
very own.
yeah.
The Indiana upset
Mm-hmm.
Purdue.
Yeah.
Something that Illinois couldn't do on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Woodson, of course, was an All-American there, and of
Yeah.
course, they needed a signature win, and they got it. I mean, that was another crazy finish too. If you guys check that out, that was on FS1 last
Mm-hmm.
night. The 3-pointer, which propelled it. Actually, Purdue actually could have sent it to overtime. They were actually very close to tying it. It just wasn't meant to be. So,
Yeah.
but look, Indiana got a great win, and I know our girl Shay's in a good mood today. So, if you saw Jordan Corder, her husband Jordan Cornett's Twitter account, she's in a good mood. So, that's
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for their son because I'm sure he's gonna have to pick and choose which school he's gonna end up going to. You got a long way to go before they got to think about that. But
Yeah.
going to Saturday's game, which is
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, yeah, Syracuse and Duke hoping to bounce back from that loss against Florida State. Syracuse, who had their struggles lately, hopefully they can get a signature win. Villanova and Georgetown. I know Georgetown's been having some issues as well. We'll see. Villanova, I think they lost early this week, so they're hoping to bounce back too. West Virginia and Texas Tech, that's another 11 a.m. game. That's on ESPN2. Seton Hall and St. John's. Let's see. Oh, Kentucky and Auburn. That's a 12 o'clock game on CBS. So that should be a fun one down there in Auburn. Auburn, that's their highest. I believe this is their highest ranking, I believe, or right up there in the highest ranking. So, they play Kentucky. That should be a fun one down there at Auburn Arena.
At 2:30 p.m. on CBS Sports Network tomorrow, we'll have number 22, the Loyola Ramblers of Chicago. They'll host Missouri State in an all-important Missouri Valley Conference game. Missouri State checks in at 14-6. Loyola at 14-2. Lakeena, this will be important for Loyola if they don't want to gain total control of that Missouri Valley Conference, because in some years they may take two. I'm talking about the tournament committee. Sometimes they only take the tournament winner. So this is being an all-important game for Loyola.
And speaking of important games in the ACC, Florida State, they're on a roll, but Miami is also on the roll. They're right there. I think they're like the top, first or second place in the ACC. So, that's a 1:00 game. That's on ESPN. So that should be a fun one. Kansas and Kansas State, that always fun when those two teams play each other. Also TCU and Iowa State, that's an ESPN2 game at 3:00. Let's see a couple other ones real quick before we go to break. DePaul against Creighton.
Yeah, they lost a heartbreaker to Xavier the other night by 1.
They did. I saw that game. That was a tough one to lose, but we'll see if they can bounce back. LSU and Tennessee. That's an ESPN game. LSU. That should be a good one between those two. UCLA and Colorado. That's at 8:00.
Let's go to Sunday's games quickly before we run up against it. Northwestern will travel to Purdue to take on the Boilermakers at noon. That's at high noon on Sunday, right before football on Big Ten Network. We'll see how Purdue responds after losing to Indiana the other night. We have number 20 Xavier. Number 20 Xavier against Marquette on FS1 at 1 p.m. on Sunday.
That should be a lot of fun. Shaka Smart's got those teams, got Marquette playing well. They actually upset Villanova a couple of days ago. So, Xavier should be on upset alert up there in Wisconsin.
And number 3, Arizona, the Wildcats will face California on the Pac-12 Network Sunday at 2 p.m. Our number 1 is in the books right here.
Also, real quick, I was surprised they mentioned this one real quick. Michigan and Indiana. I know Michigan's been having some issues too. We'll see if Indiana. Yeah, we'll see if Indiana, have a can bounce, can not have a letdown game, after that big upset win against Purdue. That should be a good one. That's on CBS.
Yeah. Our number 1 of Second City Sports is in the books. Our number 2 straight ahead, friend of the show, Matt Verderam from Fansided.com. He's an NFL insider. He'll hop on with us to preview NFL divisional playoff weekend, and we'll get into the Bears coaching and GM search as well. Along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. That's me. You're listening to Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're on the hashtag Football Friday. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80 is SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
If you have a question or comment for us during any of our topics on our last hour of the show, we have less than 60 minutes remaining. You can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. We'll get them up on this. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you as we wait for our guest, Mr. Matt Verderam, friend of the show from Fansided.com. He's the NFL insider for that great publication over there, that great website. Lakeena, let's get into our thoughts on the divisional playoff weekend. We have 2 games tomorrow with Cincinnati and Tennessee, followed by the 49ers at the Packers. And then, of course, on Sunday's schedule, we'll have the Los Angeles Rams at the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, followed by the rematch of last year's AFC title game, Buffalo and Kansas City. Lakeena, get your thoughts on Cincinnati going down to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Lakeena, it looks like it's a pretty much an evenly matchup to me. Derrick Henry is their star running back who missed half the year with the injury, foot injury. He's coming back. But on the flip side for Cincinnati, they got by the Las Vegas Raiders last week by 7. But they're the only team in the playoffs with the highest sack total, sacks given up by their offensive line. The key is for me for Cincinnati to keep Joe Burrow upright and to set the tone early. What are your thoughts about this matchup?
Yeah, it should be an interesting matchup. I mean, of course you wanna give the edge to the Titans because they're the team coming off a bye. But look, Jamar Chase. I mean, look, we know what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, we know what they can do together. And I feel kind of like, it's definitely one of those matchups where what the key is going to be who is going to, can the O line keep everybody up, keep Joe Burrow upright? I think that's going to be the key, and I feel like that's going to be definitely going to be the key in this game. But I think our guest is with us. Sid, introduce him for us.
Yes, he's a good friend of the show. He's the NFL insider and writer for Fansided.com. As I was going through our catalog for this week, as far as bringing on guests to preview this weekend's game, as I said, we haven't had on our good friend since early last year. So let's bring him on right now. He's Mr. Matt Verderam, NFL insider, as I mentioned, for Fansided.com. Good afternoon to you, Matt. How are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderam. Once again, at Matt Verderam on Twitter. And he's also the co-host of the Stacked in the Box podcast presented by Fansided.com. Matt, we were talking about this weekend's games. We have 2 tomorrow, 2 on Sunday. I want to get your thoughts about the Cincinnati traveling to Nashville to take on the Tennessee Titans. As I mentioned at the top of the segment, it looks like an evenly matched matchup on paper, but Derrick Henry's coming back for the Titans. He hasn't played for half a year, but on the other side, Cincinnati has that great young talent, especially on offense. Very underrated defense, but Joe Burrow has been sacked a lot lately. What say you about who has the advantage in this matchup?
I think Tennessee does, but I think it's a close game. Tennessee's got a really good front four that nobody talks about. Danico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons are really good inside. Harold Landry is excellent on the edge. Bud Dupree's getting healthier after tearing his ACL last November. He's played well down the stretch. I think that's a big mismatch up front. They can get pressure from a multitude of areas without having to blitz, and they're going to need to, because if they can't get pressure, that's when the Bengals can win this game. They have great wideouts. The Titans do not have very good corners. Byard's an excellent safety, but I don't think they can cover the Bengals the way they're going to need to. So it's going to be about getting pressure, but I do think they'll get some. Henry's back. We'll see how healthy he is. If he's healthy, that's obviously great for Tennessee. I think the Titans have been disrespected quite a bit. I mean, they beat Buffalo. They killed Kansas City. They beat the Rams. They beat the Niners. They beat the Colts twice. Like, I get they lost to the Jets and the Texans, but show me a team this year that hasn't lost to a bad team. I mean, the only team, maybe, honestly, is Kansas City. I mean, just about everybody else has lost to somebody who's got a bad record. So I don't think Tennessee is getting the proper respect. I think they win a close game.
Can the O-line keep the Titans keep the Titans from getting to Joe Burrow? Because we know that the Bengals, we've seen games where they keep him upright, but then we've seen games where it gets sacked 4 or 5 times. What do you think is the key to tomorrow?
I mean, the hard thing is with the Bengals are a vertical passing attack, so they need Burrow to hold the ball a little bit. I think they got to get Mixon going early, run the ball, keep that front honest. If they can do that, then you can run play action off of it, and all of a sudden you start to change things a little bit, suck the linebackers up, open up seams behind the second level. But I think Mixon's going to be a big factor in this game for the Bengals. If he can't get going, they're in trouble. Tennessee is nasty up front. It's a very good front seven. So if you're Cincinnati, I think you got to roll the pocket a little bit. You've got to run the ball. Maybe you have to have a little bit of more of a quick passing game. So I don't think it's their strength, but it might be something they have to incorporate because Tennessee's front, I would be surprised if they don't get home often if the Bengals just have these 5 and 7 step drops.
All right, the second game of the Saturday slate will take place in Green Bay tomorrow night. The Packers will host the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Divisional Playoff. Of course, the Packers, according to most people, are playing their best football of the year. They're perhaps the best team left in this playoff field. Of course, San Francisco, they almost let it get away, but they dominated the Dallas Cowboys on the road last week, 23-17. On the flip side for the Packers, looks like they're going to get some key guys back, along with San Francisco on the defensive side with Bosa and Fred Warner. Who has the advantage in this matchup? Will it be Green Bay dominating San Francisco again, or can the 49ers pull off another stunner on the road once again?
Look, I think the Niners have a real shot to win the football game. I am picking the Packers. They're at home. They're off a bye. Garoppolo's never started a game in weather under 32 degrees. This game's going to start at 8 degrees or thereabout. The Packers are better. That being said, the Packers can't stop anybody from running the football. Nobody. And if there's one thing the Niners can do, it is just pound the ball at them. I mean, the Packers are going to have to prove in this game that they can stop them from running the football. We saw this matchup a couple of years ago, and Garoppolo threw the ball 8 times. Now, I don't think that's going to happen again. The Niners are not the exact same team they were then, neither are the Packers. But the philosophy, I think, will be the same. Look, we're going to run the ball. We're going to try to stay ahead of the sticks. We're going to play action. We'll go to Samuel. We'll go to Ayuk. Go to Kittle down the middle, and flip it out to Juszczyk here and there. So the Niners are going to be in the game. My concern is, A, how healthy are these guys that have been banged up throughout the course of the week, and Bosa and Warner and Garoppolo? And then B, Garoppolo feels like every week he's always good for 1 or 2 balls that he just wails at a corner. Do the Packers catch those footballs? I mean, that sometimes in the playoffs it comes down to that. Like, did you catch the ball? Did you make the play? Did you make the one opportunity you had really count? I think Green Bay wins by about a touchdown, but I don't think it's a given conclusion either.
Right. I think that's going to be one of those toss-up games, and another rematch from earlier this season, Matt. And I feel like this is going to be another one of these pick'ems, because these two teams are always, especially during the playoffs. I don't know, but where do you see this matchup between the Rams and the Bucks? I know the Rams kind of dominated the Bucks earlier this year. That was before Von Miller got there, and Cam Akers wasn't there, and also too, Tampa is now dealing with injuries. So where do you see this game?
This is a game where I really think the Rams have a ton of the matchups in their favor. Jalen Ramsey can guard Mike Evans. The Bucks don't really have anybody else on the outside who scares you, with Godwin being out and Brown being released.
Right.
Fournette, you don't know if he's healthy, if he's going to play. If he does, how healthy is he? They're beat up front. I mean, the Rams really are the more talented team at this point. They are. I mean, they're healthier. They've got Kupp and Beckham on the outside. I don't know who the heck's going to handle that situation for the Bucks on the perimeter. But I'm not picking Stafford over Brady in a playoff game. Ever. I know that's really like lazy, lousy analysis. There's no way I'm picking Stafford over Brady. None. I think Bowles is just going to relentlessly blitz him and say, look, if you make one mistake, that's good. That's fine. That's enough. The Bucks really probably shouldn't win this football game, but I'm going to pick them because I'm picking the guy with 7 rings on his finger to just figure it out and find a way.
Matt Verderam from Fansided.com. He's the NFL insider and writer for that great website. He's joining us here on Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Matt, staying with that Bucks-Rams game for a moment. Of course, Ryan Jensen and Wirfs, they're injured offensive lineman for Tampa Bay. It looks like both of them are going to play, but if those two are not right, it could be a long day for Tom Brady. And Aaron, as well as I do, Aaron Donald's a man-child for the Los Angeles Rams. Could you see him and/or former Chicago Bear Leonard Floyd having a field day against Tom Brady and company?
Oh yeah, yes, 100%. That's why I said I think the matchups for the Rams really favor them.
Yeah,
I did, but
agree.
So it's like, look, yeah, I mean, you got the jersey behind you sitting, like with Jordan, okay. There'd be times with the Bulls, you're like, man, you know what? That other team, they match up. And then Jordan, like, that's nice. Here's 50.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, that's always the thing when you get those types of guys, man. I cannot pick against Brady. I cannot do
it. And we won't make you do it either, Matt, unless you don't want to. Okay, the last but certainly not least, I mean, this is from, I believe this is a week 5 matchup, I believe. Yep. The Bills and the Chiefs. Of course, the Bills dominate. I don't think dominate would be the word, but I think they definitely got the best of the Chiefs. And this is around the time when people were wondering, is the Chiefs starting to fall off a little bit? Where do you see this matchup? Because I feel like this is another one of those toss-ups. This could be really for the AFC Championship.
It's a great game. Arrowhead Stadium's been open since 1972. No team's ever gone in there and beat the Chiefs twice in the same season. Buffalo's trying to be the first one to do it. And they might. They're a great team. I would say the Bills destroyed Kansas City the first time they played them, but the Chiefs have like 6 new defensive starters. They played well. They've won 10 of their last 11. They destroyed Pittsburgh, and they were supposed to, and they did. I think this game comes down to Allen. Allen is the guy that, look, Mahomes, you know what you're getting. You know with Mahomes, you're getting your 300, you're getting 2 or 3 touchdown passes, you're getting a couple highlight reel throws. Allen, when he's at his best, is as good as anybody. He's also had a lot of games this year where he has not played well. Which Josh Allen shows up in this game? And I think the Chiefs, if they stick to who they are, they're going to blitz him all night. They're going to go after him. He has not been good against the blitz. He's one of the rare quarterbacks who's better when he's not facing it than when he is. I think the Chiefs will go after him. Allen has played better against zone than man coverage. The Chiefs play a lot of man. Now, the flip side of that is if you blitz him and you're in man coverage and he gets out the back door, he's going to run forever. Can the Chiefs blitz responsibly, if that makes sense? If they can do it, I think they win. I'm going to pick them to win. To me, it's kind of like the Pats of those years. You pick that team until they don't win. Like I will take Kansas City to just find a way in their own building after being humiliated a couple months ago by this team.
Sticking with that matchup, Matt, of course, Kansas City played Pittsburgh last week, and I'll give the slight of excuse for Kansas City's running game. It didn't show up against Pittsburgh, especially early, but it turns out they didn't need the running game against the Steelers. What concerns do you have about Kansas City's running game against Buffalo? Because we all know that the Buffalo's run defense is much better than Pittsburgh's. And Kansas City, before last Sunday, they actually ran the ball pretty well, especially when they were struggling in the middle of the year.
Yeah, and when the Chiefs commit to running the ball, they've run it fine this year. They just don't commit to it because they have Patrick Mahomes. But I think in this game, they have to commit to it to some degree. The Bills are going to play too high. They're going to back off. They don't want anything over the top. Now, last year, the Bills and the Chiefs played on a Monday night game in Buffalo. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire and the Chiefs ran for 249 yards in that game. They stayed on the ground, and they just pounded the ball out of them, and Buffalo couldn't stop it. I have a feeling you're going to see some of that this weekend, where the Chiefs have Jerick McKinnon, who had a great game last week. It totaled over 150 yards in rushing and receiving. I think they're going to take their shots at him on the ground. I think the Chiefs' interior offensive line is very good. It's one of the strengths. They have 2 rookies there in Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, who are next to Joe Thuney. They've played really, really well. I think the Chiefs, if they get light boxes, they're going to try to run the ball. Now, that's not going to win them the game. Let's be real. 15 is going to try and win them the game. But they have to commit to that to some extent. And I think they know it after running against them pretty well in week 5, but they just got away from it because they got down. I think they'll try to run the ball again this week.
Okay, Matt, we would be remiss if we didn't ask you about some of the GM and the coaching searches that are going on, especially here in Chicago. Of course, Joe Shane, who is now with the Giants, looks like he might get one of the guys from Buffalo to come with him. What do you think about the Bears coaching and GM search? Because it seems like everybody's been. I think Sid, got a call. So I think he's going to be with the Bears next week. So
Not yet.
What names are you hearing that are being floated around for the Bears GM and head coaching jobs?
Right now, I mean, look, Ed Dodd was a guy they liked. He pulled out of the mix. They're looking into Morocco Brown in Indianapolis as well. Maybe he's the guy who comes over. I think Ryan Poles out of Kansas City, who's a guy who interviewed twice for the Giants job, would be a really good fit. But it's kind of wait and see. I don't know that any favorite has emerged yet, at least publicly, about who the Bears want as a GM. And then I think, look, you've got to get the GM first. After that, I would look at Brian Dable. I think he's a great fit for them. Leslie Frazier, I believe, given another opportunity with a quarterback, could do a really nice job. Obviously, Chicago ties, having played there. So there's a litany of guys. Brian Flores, I think, would be great. I think the Bears, they have plenty of options.
Matt Verderam of Fansided.com. We're heading down the home stretch with him. He's an NFL insider. He's joining us right here on Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Matt, of course, last weekend we had two games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. Of course, the one on the MLK Day last weekend. Right. And, of course, Dallas and San Francisco was the highest rated game in terms of TV ratings in the last 7 years. Some people complained about there's too many playoff teams and they want to go back to the old format. Can you tell these people it's only a matter of time that the NFL is going to expand the playoffs again? We all know they're doing this because of money. It's not going to go back to the old system.
No, of course not. It's like
Thank you.
It's like when people complain about baseball. You're getting 162 games. Like, you're lucky you're 200. Be thankful. And I got news for everybody. In a couple of years, you're gonna have an 18-game schedule in the NFL. That's good.
For me, aside from the Bears, because we know that maybe we don't how you feel about the Bears head coach and GM job. Which head coach or GM job that you feel like is sort of like the one to watch for?
Sorry, guys, I'm headed downstairs, so I got to plug in the computer.
No, it's okay.
I think there's a lot of there's a lot of interesting jobs. Like, the Giants have 2 first-round picks, obviously one of them courtesy of the Bears. And so I think that's a job that's interesting. If for no other reason, you have 2 first-round picks. So I think that job makes a lot of sense. Minnesota's talented, but Minnesota, I don't know that they have a quarterback you're overly excited about. I think the Bears job, and I'm not just saying it, look, they don't have a first-round pick, so that hurts. But I think the Bears job, if you like Fields, it's a good job. Like, you have this young quarterback who you can build around. I like Trevor Lawrence, but I'd be terrified of that ownership. I'd be terrified of the GM. That job would scare me. Houston, if the Texans called me up, I don't know that I would take that job. Like, I mean, I also wouldn't win a game, so that might also be part of the problem. But there's no why would you go there? Why would you go there? Denver's interesting. Denver doesn't have an owner. They're in the middle of a sale, so that always scares you a little bit. You don't know who your boss is going to be. But they have a really good roster. You got to find the quarterback. It's a question if they can find one. The Raiders, what's going to happen? Is Derek Carr going to come back? I think he would. I think the Raiders is a good job if you're okay with Mark Davis. I like the Bears job as long as you're in on Fields, which I think you should be. I think he's talented. There are a few jobs out there that are good quality jobs. And the Giants with 2 first-round picks, it's just you got to find the quarterback. You got to be able to do it. And this is a draft, or I don't know that you're overly enthused about any of them.
Yeah, and last question from me, Matt. Speaking of quarterbacks, of course, we all know there's some sort of quarterback shuffle every year between teams. Of course, Russell Wilson's name will be brought up once again. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo, no matter what happens against Green Bay on Saturday. Of course, you have Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. There's been some rumblings here and there over the last 24 hours or so that this may be Brady's last playoff run. I don't believe it personally, but you never know what's going to happen. And there's talk about Baker Mayfield, and he may have some options of going to a different team next year. What do you see in terms of the quarterback carousel this coming off season?
Well, I think it always is fun to talk about, but then you kind of get into actually looking at it, and you're like, well, where are these guys going to go? And who are these teams going to replace these guys with? Now, Garoppolo, I think, will move. I think he'll move because they traded everything in their mother for Trey Lance, right? Like, you can't do that. And I've heard people say, well, what about the Packers did it with Jordan Love? Well, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't Aaron Rodgers. So it's a little bit different. I think he'll move because they also want to recoup some of that draft capital, right? If you trade Garoppolo, you can. So I think he'll move. And I think Washington makes sense there. I think Denver is a team that makes sense. Pittsburgh, they haven't needed a quarterback in forever. They need one now. So that's one to watch. Mayfield, I get it. I understand the thought process behind it, but who's their quarterback then? Who's playing quarterback for Cleveland?
Exactly.
Right? It's always like when people scream to fire the coach. It's like, well, that's great. Who's the guy coming in? Because people say it can't be worse. Oh, it can be worse. It can always be worse. Okay? Always it can be worse. So I think Mayfield's back on his fifth-year option. I think they'll roll him back into town. I think really the guys, Wilson is somebody who I would not be surprised if he gets traded. Now, to who? It's hard to say. That's where I can see the Giants. Right? If Flores goes there, especially if Dable goes there, guys who are respected, guys who, especially Flores, has a track record of being a successful head coach. I could see, look, everybody knows who's married, okay? If your wife wants something, it's probably going to happen. And Russell Wilson, he's married to Sierra. If she's an entertainer, she's got her own career. Her career matters. Does she want to go to Cleveland or New York? And let's be honest. That's what it is. And I'm sure he's going to go, okay, that sounds good. So I think there's an opportunity for him to go there. And then look, obviously the one is Deshaun Watson. You just don't know with the legal situation. He's still got 22 civil suits against him. You don't know where that's going to go. It's irresponsible to speculate. Now, if that's cleared, I think he gets traded. If it's not cleared, how could you possibly trade him? I don't know that you could. So he's the wild card in this because of all the extenuating circumstances.
Last question from me, Matt. The Jim Harbaugh watch, I don't know what's happening. People, the words might and could, and I'm getting annoyed by all of this. Do you think he is coming back to the NFL, or does he end up staying in Michigan? Because I'm over. I think he stays in Michigan, but what say you?
I think money talks, and Michigan pays him a lot of it. I think the only place he'd go is the Raiders, and they're the Raiders willing to offer more money than Michigan. And this is a team that's coming off a situation where they just gave Gruden $100 million, didn't make the playoffs, and he resigned in disgrace. If you're the Raiders, you got to have some kind of trying to think of the right word to say here. You got to have some fortitude and maybe some recklessness to give a guy that kind of money. Look, Harbaugh was a great NFL coach. He also burnt out pretty quickly because he is so intense. Guys in college, they're going to get him for 3 years. You're going to have 4 years. Guys in the NFL, can guys deal with him for 7, 8, 10 years? It's a lot. I don't know. My gut is that he stays at Michigan, but money is going to be the deciding factor. And if the Raiders give him more than Michigan, I think you would take it. I think he'd leave.
All right, that was Matt, veteran NFL insider from Fansided.com. Matt, you're great as always, very entertaining, very thoughtful when it comes to giving us your opinions on the National Football League. Enjoy the games this weekend, my friend, and we'll definitely be reaching out to you as the NFL offseason. We know is always fun and entertaining, so we're looking forward to talking to you again then. So great job today. Enjoy the games and keep up the great work.
Thanks a lot. Matt. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too, Matt. Stay safe.
All right, that was Matt Verderame of Fansided.com. He's the NFL insider. He's also the co-host of the Stacked in the Box podcast. So check that out wherever you get your podcast. Let's see if our good buddy Christine Manika from KXRB Radio is ready for us as she joins us every week around this time to give us her thoughts on the NFL and other issues from around the world of sports. Christine, how are you, my friend?
We're moving and grooving. We're just chugging along. It's been a crazy week, to say the least.
You heard. I know you came in at the tail end of the conversation
Yeah.
about the NFL. We'll get into our picks in our following in our next half hour. But give us your thoughts about the games last weekend. We called it the not so hot wild card,
Not so
super wild
super.
card weekend.
Well, that's why I picked some of the underdogs, because I thought, with how the NFL has been the whole season pretty much, that maybe there's going to be a team that just uppercuts them from the right, but that unfortunately didn't happen. I feel bad for the Patriots. They kind of, they blew it, to say the least, against the Bills when they knew what kind of team that they were facing against, and they've defeated them before. That's another crazy part of it too. So yeah, I guess you never know. It could be an exciting week. It could be a very boring week.
It's always weird when it comes to wild card weekend. Like you said, it's so unpredictable. Now, what game are you looking forward to this weekend in the divisional round? Because they're all four of these games are going to be some really good ones. So which one do you have circled?
Boy, I'm excited for that Rams and Buccaneers game. That's going to be a big game. It's going to show a lot about who Matthew Stafford is as a leader and as a quarterback, because this is his first NFL divisional playoff round in God knows how long, and it's in a Rams uniform. It's a new city. It's a new team. He was able to get Odell Beckham that extra money in his pocket. So we'll see.
Going back to last weekend, Christine, of course, the Cowboys in 49ers contest was the highest rated game in the wild card round in the last 7 years. But I wanted to hear your thoughts about the craziness at the end of that game. We talk about this all the time. Lakeena, Bill Belichick, or as we call him on the show, Bill Belichick, the head coach of the Patriots. Situational football, knowing the situation. If this comes up, what do you do? If that comes up, what do you do? Dak Prescott trying to spike the ball. The referee has to touch it first. They didn't know that. The same damn thing happened toward the end of the first half. It bit him in the butt then, and it bites him in the butt at the end of the game.
I almost wonder who was actually calling those plays at the end, because that's how crazy that game was. Was it McCarthy? Was it Moore? Maybe Dak was calling the shots from his angle since he was on the field. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. I don't know why he even spiked the ball before the referee touched it. I don't know. I think in those types of situations, when it's a position that you haven't been in a while, it takes a while for maybe a veteran player like Dak Prescott to get that registered, saying, oh, yeah, this is how you're supposed to do it, even in a playoff situation. And, oh, yeah, I should have done this instead of that. It's just the bigger stage, essentially. And some players fall under the pressure of that, and they forget the simple basics.
Real quick before we go to break, that game, that game was really really kind of surprised. I don't think it surprised anybody that the 49ers won that game, even though they tried to give that game away multiple times. The game itself, I mean, that last play, I think, really is sort of one of those, follies, if you will, in that rivalry again. They were actually all set up in, if you looked at it, they were set up in Hail Mary mode. I think that was going to try to go for the end zone. So we'll probably never know. But, Mike McCarthy should have been gone, I think. He should have been gone. That was grounds for being fired. I don't know if it was Dak. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if it was, OC Moore that made the decision. But that's sort of like the thing that get a coach fired, I think.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, they haven't said anything yet since the game, Dallas. So who knows what they're thinking right now?
I know that what our big bosses are thinking, we had to take this 2-2 break as we hit the bottom of the hour. You listen to a hashtag Football Friday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, and Christine with you. When we return, Christine will have her divisional playoff round picks, and we have a couple of subjects we'd like to discuss with her as well as we wrap up today's show. Yeah, oh boy, it's the word. You guys will know what we're talking about when we return. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena, and Christine here with you. This is our last segment of the show for this week. Last segment of the show for today as we get you ready for NFL Divisional playoff weekend. Lakeena, we usually ask you at this time what our records are, but we call it the preseason, Christina. The records I've kept, this doesn't really count, but your boy went 4-0 last weekend. But
I already know I lost, so you don't even have to go over it.
Well,
so,
yeah.
This is preseason. It's kept, but it doesn't count, if you know what I'm saying. So let's get to these weekend's games. Tomorrow, which is Saturday, first game up at 3:30 p.m. on CBS. It's the Tennessee Titans hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, the Titans had a bye last week. Cincinnati, they held on to win against the Las Vegas Raiders 26-19, their first playoff win since January of 1991. Lakeena, let's start with you. Who do you have winning this matchup?
Well, this is the only game where there's no, they didn't meet in the regular season, so I think that helps a little bit too. It'll be interesting if Derrick Henry will be able to go. He hasn't played in like 2 months, so it's gonna be interesting to see if he does get the go ahead. I feel like that's going to be the key. Also, the key for me is going to be like I said, on our interview with Matt, can the Bengals keep Joe Burrow upright? That's going to be the key. Yes, the Titans, their defense, not a lot of names, but they're very opportunistic. So you got to think they're going to be very aggressive. And I feel like they have a chip on their shoulder too because they feel like they were kind of backed into the number 1 seed. So if AJ Brown can step up, if the defense can step up, it'll be a close one, but I'm picking the Titans.
Christine?
Yeah, it's great that Derrick Henry is back, but the question is with him, is he going to be the same Derrick Henry we saw at the beginning of the season? Is this still going to be the same player that gets so fired up and just races down that field? We don't know yet. Now, Joe Burrow and his crew, they were just on fire last week, but their downfall is going to be not if they can hold him up, but it's going to be the injuries that they already have. So it will be a close game. But Tennessee, they were right in it last year. I think that's going to be the case on Sunday, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals pulled this one out, but I'm picking Tennessee. I hate doing that because I love my Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what's going to come down.
Bengals?
Hold on. For me, for the Bengals, it's going to come down to running the football. Joe Mixon didn't have the yardage last week because rookie wide receiver Jamar Chase had a great game from the wide receiver spot. And this Bengals defense is very underrated. I think the two keys for me for Cincinnati, can you get Joe Mixon to run the ball with some consistency? And that's going to help take the pressure off of Joe Burrow. And on the flip side, for the Cincinnati defense, can you force Ryan Tannehill to become an exclusive thrower? Because even though Tennessee every once in a while can put up 30-plus points, that's not their game. Their game is running the football. And the question for me for Tennessee is, even though Derrick Henry is starting, how many carries are you going to give him? Because he hasn't played in almost 2 months. Right. And so that's the question for Tennessee. It's going to be a close game. Tennessee is favored by 3.5. I'm going to step out on the limb, put them on the table. The Cincinnati Bengals, as Christine is afraid to say, but I'll say it for her, the Cincinnati Bengals will pull off the upset on the road, and they'll play in the AFC Championship game.
Can I change my vote? I want to go back to my team.
Well, look, it's up to you. I mean, if you want to do it, then hey.
Nope. Stick with my gut. I did this in school too. I got to stick with my first answer. Go with it.
Okay, now this is going to be a rematch for week 3. The 49ers and the Packers, of course, in that week 3 matchup, the Packers edged out the 49ers 30-28. It looks like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa will play. So I guess, I know Kyle Shanahan's keeping that very close to the vest. Sid, you start this one because there's a lot of rich history between these two teams, especially in the playoffs.
Yes, and I'll definitely be watching the game from 1998 before I watch this game tomorrow night. Remember that when Jerry Rice fumbled, but it wasn't called a fumble, and that changed a lot of careers for a whole lot of people. The late Reggie White may so rest in peace, but I think that was his last game in the Green Bay uniform. Of course, what was his head coach? Mike Holmgren. He left for Seattle. And you saw what he did with that franchise, taking them to the Super Bowl back in 05 before they got blasted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. But enough of yesteryear. Let's focus on today. The 49ers, we talked about what they did at Dallas last week. We know what their game plan is. Run the football, play strong defense. They did that last week, even though they almost gave their game away. It's going to come down to, can they stay disciplined and not take any dumb penalties, especially on defense against Aaron Rodgers. We all know that Aaron Rodgers is the best QB in terms of making defenders jump off sides. He can still do that. And also another key is, the 49ers, can they continue to run the football, especially with Elijah Mitchell? And how much will they use Deebo Samuel? He's going to be the key out of that wide receiver position. How much are they going to use him on wide receiver reverses and screens and things along that line? That's going to be another key for that San Francisco offense. Now, for the Packers, can they run the ball with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon? And will they use their tight ends on offense? So that's going to be my keys for Green Bay. I think it's going to be another close one. The Packers are favored by 5.5. San Francisco is definitely going to keep this close because of their defense, and they definitely got to get home to Aaron Rodgers at least 2 times. And so I'm going with the 49ers in an upset. You can take it for what it's worth.
I'm gonna pick the Packers on this one just because I think Aaron Rodgers has a lot to prove. He's dealt with a lot of off the field drama this year when it comes to the COVID vaccine, and then Habarkish saying he doesn't deserve the MVP award. Well, now I think Rodgers is going to work that much harder just to basically shove it in Habarkish's face, saying that, yeah, I'm meant to be the MVP, and this is how I'm going to do it. So I think he's gonna pull off a big game, just because, especially since he had the bye week for the first round and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers kept it close and eventually end up winning it. Who knows if this is the last time the 49ers play this season. This could be the last time we see Garoppolo in a 49ers uniform. That's up in the air. So it really all depends on who wants it more, who wants the MVP, or who wants to stay a 49er, really. So because of, I think Rodgers has more riding on this win than the 49ers do, I'm going to pick the Packers. And we all know what he can do anyway with his throws. So,
right. Yeah, I mean, they're exactly. Oh gosh. Okay. It's going to be interesting because Robert Bakari is is supposed to be coming back, and it looks like the Zarius Smith like he's going to be back too. So, and we'll see how the 49ers use Deebo Samuel. I think that's going to be the key here, and it's going to be very close. It could come down to one of those crazy plays like it usually is when these two teams play each other. Excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and pick I'm gonna save the trial. I'm gonna pick the Packers because I feel like they're coming off a bye. Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers has a lot to prove, and you know what? I just think that this is probably their bet. One of his last chances to probably get a chance to win. Get to the Super Bowl and such. All right. No, go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Yeah, no, let's go to Sunday's action now. A first game up will be at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch this game on NBC. The Los Angeles Rams, after blowing out the Arizona Cardinals last Monday night in the first ever wild card game on a Monday, they'll travel to Tampa Bay to face the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay is favored by 2.5. There's injuries all over that offensive line for Tampa Bay. The Rams are coming in with confidence. They have Matthew Stafford, who achieved his first ever career playoff victory. Will Matthew Stafford go back to his old ways, or will Tampa Bay and Tom Brady find a way to pull out of this one? Because Tampa Bay last week, they really didn't need him, even though he had a good game because they faced a young, inexperienced Philadelphia team. Christine, I start with you. Who do you have winning this matchup?
You took the words out of my mouth there for last week's game with the Buccaneers. That was an easy win for them. That made it seem like it was just a regular season game. You can say the same things about the Rams too. I don't think they expected to win as much as they did, given, Kyler Murray and how strong the Cardinals were, especially at the beginning of the season. I don't think anybody could have expected that the Rams knocked them out this way. So the fact that both of these teams are coming together after pretty easy wins, it's going to be interesting. Tom Brady, he's been in this situation before. That's no secret. He knows how to hone a team in. He knows how to handle the pressure for everybody. And he just knows how playoff situations work. Then you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford coming in. You have a lot of great veterans on that side. But with a quarterback situation, this is his first time in a playoff game, in a real game. So is he going to be like Dak Prescott and lose some of the basics pretty much during this high intensity game? It's the same field, same stadium for now. We don't know where they're going to be. So for the most part, it just depends on what the mindset Matthew Stafford's going to have. And I think maybe because it is a lot of pressure, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. I know they've had a lot of injuries, especially on the offensive line, but I don't think it's nothing that Tom Brady can't handle.
Yeah. Also, too, Lindsay Theory, who covers the Rams for ESPN, she some big news here. Sean McVay said that left tackle Andrew Whitworth and also Taylor Rapp, who is a safety, will be out. So. That's a bit, Whitworth being out, that's a big loss for that Rams O-line. So definitely kind of an even scent here. But even with that said, I know we talked about that matchup earlier, that week 3 matchup where the Rams pretty much dominated the Bucs. For me, gosh, I mean, this is going to get, very interesting because I feel like this could go either way. You know what? I'll step out. I'll pick the Rams because I feel like the Rams are, they're kind of like they're in win now mode. The Bucs, I just think they have too many injuries. Yeah, it looks like Jansen and will be able to play, but that's definitely going to be the key. But I feel like the defensive the defensive front for the Bucs are a little bit better than the offense. The defensive front from the Bucs, and they've got some good players too. But I think for defensive wise, that's why I'm picking the Rams. I'm picking the upset.
And let me join you in that boat, Lakeena. I'm picking the Rams as well.
Oh, my Lord.
Oh, calm down, Christine. But
come on, guys.
Even if those two offensive linemen return, which I expect, Lakeena, how healthy they're going to be, and with the Aaron, as I said, Aaron Donald, he's the man child of the defensive lineman from the Rams. How will Tampa Bay double team him? How much will they double team him? And this is the where Leonard Floyd, the former Chicago Bear, will come in, their outside linebacker from the Rams. Mm-hmm. I think that they could put some pressure on Tom Brady. Let's be honest here. They're not the same team as they were a year ago. They're not as healthy as they were a year ago. And Tampa Bay got away with this last year, not running the ball with some consistency. I don't think they can get away with it this year. It's going to be close. It's going to get ugly. Like, I don't think it's going to be ugly like your 1980s football edition will. But who's going to make the big play? And on the offensive side for the Rams, can they run the football with some consistency? They were able to do that a little bit because the score was so big. And so Matthew Stafford didn't have to have all the pressure in the world. But even though Tampa Bay's defense is not as good as it was last year, it's still pretty good. It's definitely better than Arizona. So yeah. I'm going with the Rams, but they got to keep the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hand. They got to treat him like Jimmy Garoppolo. Can you make that one big play when you need to?
That's going to be the interesting part there. Now, the last, but certainly not least, a rematch from the Week 5 matchup. The Bills against the Chiefs. The Bills, they kind of dominated the Chiefs in that Week 5 matchup. This is sort of around the time when we thought that was there something wrong with the Chiefs. Now, they've added a lot of defensive guys since then. They've developed into a pretty formidable defense. And as our buddy Matt said earlier, no one has beaten the Chiefs at Arrowhead twice. So they're, the Bills are hoping that, they'll be the first to do it. So, Christine, I'll start with you. Where do you see this matchup?
With the Chiefs, it's kind of like the Rams and Buccaneers situation. They're coming off of an easy win pretty much. And that was kind of predictable after Big Ben said, yeah, we have no chance. I don't even know why we're playing in this game. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Chiefs enter into this game, knowing that the Bills have beat them before. I think the Bills are actually predicted to upset the Chiefs in some way. Can you confirm that, Sid? What's the over and under on that?
Kansas City's favored by 1.5 points, so it's basically you had to pick them.
basically you had to pick them. Okay, so if you're betting, don't bet this one. But for passing yards this postseason, you have Mahomes with 404 yards, and you have Josh Allen, who's not too far behind him with the 308 yards. So it's going to be very interesting. You know, the Chiefs, they were on fire last week, especially with Travis Kelce. He had a big game, not only getting a touchdown, but throwing a touchdown. So that was kind of cool to see too. And, you know, his story with his mom, seeing his brother play and the Chiefs play, that was also fun too to see. And his mom getting in on the press conference, you know, that's what the game's all about, really. But if we're talking about potential here, I think it's the Bills' time. You know, I think this is their chance to really break however long this curse is for them. I think they're in the right mindset. I think they're ready. They came off of that big win after that Patriots game, which they easily could have lost that too. But in the end, it depends on who really shows up. Are you going to get the good Bills? Are you going to get the good Chiefs? Are you going to get the really bad Bills or the really bad Chiefs? What we were talking about when they were playing each other during the regular season. But I think because the Bills, out of anyone, had an actual game that they played, I'm going to go with the Bills just because they really could have lost that game last week and they didn't. So, yeah, the Bills.
Lakeena?
Oh, you want me to go next? Yeah, I'll pick it. No, I thought you were going to go next.
Lakeena, you're fine.
Okay, well, no, you know what, though? I think that this game's going to get this could be one of those, you know, pick-ems, and I with everyone else, if you're going to bet this game, I would advise you not to because it's definitely going to be a toss.
Oh, wait till the last minute.
Yeah, literally wait till the last minute. But I feel, you know what? I'll pick the Bills. I mean, I think they feel like last year, especially also the AFC Championship game, they had their chances to kind of get into the rhythm. They couldn't. So I think that they remember that game. And look, I'm still not sold on the Chiefs. I'm sorry, I'm not. And look, I know their defense has gotten better. Didn't one of their defensive guys, Willie Gay, did he get arrested yesterday? I mean,
really?
Yeah. Like, dude, what are you doing? DUI, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, dude, my God.
Dude, what are you doing? So, you know, I think the Bills are on a mission. I know that defense is on a mission. I know Josh Allen is as well. He actually knows he has a running back now. He can give the ball to Devin Singletary. Yay! So I think he's going to utilize that. Also, to keeping Mahomes and Chiefs offense off the field, I think that's going to be the key. So I'm going to pick the Bills.
You took the words out of my mouth, Lakeena. I think you just gave the game plan away. Hopefully, Sean McDermott or someone's affiliated with him is listening to this. As I said throughout the season, Lakeena, if Josh Allen, your quarterback, is your leading rusher, you're not going to win, especially against this Chiefs team. Couple of keys for me for Buffalo. Can you stop Kansas City on third down and on fourth down should Kansas City go for? Because that didn't happen last year in the AFC Championship game, and Kansas City did what they did from the second quarter on in last year's title game after that first quarter turnover on special teams. Number two, Devin Singletary and whoever else wants to play running back outside of Josh Allen, can you run the ball with some consistency? And that'll keep that Chiefs defense honest. For Kansas City, we talked about this with our Matt Veteran, our guest in our last segment, Lakeena. Can Kansas City's running game get back on track? You didn't need it as much against Pittsburgh last week because of Pittsburgh stinks. But can you commit to running the ball? But they want to win the game with Patrick Mahomes. And so that's what's going to come down to. I'm going to pick Kansas City as an expert pick, but as a fan, I'm cheering hard as hell for Buffalo, even though yours truly did pick Kansas City to win the Super Bowl this year.
Boy.
Yes, you did. You did. If you go back to listen to that earlier this year. And those are your divisional round picks for the NFL playoffs, the Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Cindy Brown and KXRB's Christine Manika. I'm Lakeena McGee, wrapping things up here. We still got a few minutes left here. Christine, I want to get your thoughts on the Bears GM and coaching search. There was really no updates. You know, they're still talking to people. And
did they talk to you yet, Lakeena?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I think
call from them.
Yeah, I'm about to have them talk to you, Christine, because I got a text from them earlier this week.
I'm waiting for it.
What are your thoughts on all this? Because, you know, they seem to be talking to pretty much everybody. So,
Yeah, before that, I got to give my condolences out to Les Grobstein.
Yeah.
What a sad loss there. My mom, she listens to the score pretty much all night, especially when she's doing, like schoolwork and stuff like that, because she's a teacher. And Les Grobstein was there with her throughout, her late nights and stuff like that. So she took that loss pretty hard. I liked Les Grobstein too, listening to him late at night. So it's definitely sad, and another one gone, another great one gone in the sports industry here in Chicago. So my thoughts go out to his family, over at the Score there, because that's a radio family right there, and the Bears, because the Bears worked with him a lot too. So again, really, really sad stuff there. But back to the GM and the coach situation. I think no news is good news at this point. I'm just waiting for them to have a person that they want for a manager before they hire a coach. Because in my opinion, in my point of view, call me crazy, I think that the general manager should be hired first, and then everybody works together to find out the coaching.
That makes too much sense, Christine. They don't operate that way.
How dare you? How dare you make too much sense, Christine? How dare you?
Too much sense. But it's just, do I like some of the candidates that they've been interviewing? Absolutely. Do I think some of them are past their time or not exactly a right fit for the team? Absolutely. I really still think that Jeff Ireland could be the guy for the GM position. I heard, who was it that dropped out? The Colts guy. The Colts guy that interviewed with the Bears, he already dropped his name out of contention for the position. So I don't know what that means, but maybe it means the Bears were giving him the hint that they were going to go in another direction or whatnot. But I think the first step is hire the general manager. I know that they're doing these whole GM and coaching, a joint interview type thing, which is fine. But if you're trying to look to see if these two would be a great fit, you're wasting your time, because if they don't end up getting along, you guys are going to look stupid. The Bears are going to look stupid, essentially. So that's my thought about it. Go with the GM first, hire the GM, wait for the coaching staff later.
Yeah,
as I said before, Lakeena, that makes too much sense. But
way too much sense.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Eberflus, staying with the Colts. I mean, his name has been floated around. He got a second interview. There have been a couple other guys that are scheduled to have a second interview. Dennis Allen, apparently, he's going to get an interview next week. So, there are just so many names on both the GM and the coaching front. I'm just worried about the fact that the guy that's probably going to end up, that hasn't been around the game. Look, I love Bill Polian. He's a great Hall of Famer.
I saw that, yeah.
I'm afraid that he's probably getting most of the credence here, and I'm a little worried that he's going to be the guy that's going to make the ultimate decision.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what worries me. But Sid, what say you?
Exactly what I said. Past your prime, that they're way, because the NFL has changed so much within the last 3 years in itself. It's not the same game. When you were talking about how is it possible that Jim Harbaugh can be back in the NFL, money does talk. But if he gets put back in that situation, can he keep up with what has changed since he left the NFL? College ball and the NFL, way different ball games right there. And he made another good point too, saying, can the players stand him for 7 seasons, 8 seasons, whatever the case is?
A couple of quick things on the Bears search. Remember, the story came out in the last 24 to 48 hours that Bill Polian told the Bears brass to fire Ryan Pace. Remember, we talked about this leading up to the regular season finale at Minnesota, that there was a report that Ryan Pace was going to stay. Matt Nagy was going to be the only one that paid the price. But, of course, both of those guys are now gone. Right. But I would like to see the GM and the head coach in a joint press conference hired on the same day. That makes a lot of sense too, but you're talking about the Bears, so I'm waiting for them to fall flat on their face. I know I'm not supposed to say that because I'm a fan, but being on this side of the mic, you see things differently than when you are a fan.
You do, and plus, same with the whole, rumors going around with, is Nagy staying? Is Nagy going? Is Pace staying? Is he getting a raise? I think because there was so much, and I don't know why it was with these two, but there was just so much media attention around Pace and Nagy about are they staying, are they going? And I've never seen anything like it where the media is just, saying, oh, this could happen or this can happen. I can say that because I'm part of the media, but it's like, why the interest so quickly about are they staying or are they going? Why putting that out there? So I think it was possible that Pace could have been promoted in some extent, because I remember it was George McCaskey that said last season when they were going to give Nagy one more chance, they said, oh, Pace could be around here for a little bit still, but we're going to give Nagy another chance. So I think because of all the pressure surrounding the rumors and stuff like that, I think the Bears kind of had no choice, especially the McCaskeys had no choice, to just say like, okay, we're going to put our hands up with this. There's been too many rumors circling around these two. They're both gone, and we'll make everybody happy.
And that's going to be the key here, I feel like. So real quick, I know we're going up against it, wrapping things up here. What's on your mind this week, in sports, whether it's the Bulls, Alexander Ovechkin is somehow leading the NHL in scoring, at 36. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy to me. And also too, Edmonton is struggling with all their stars. What's kind of, what are the guys looking out for this weekend besides the divisional round games? I'll throw that curveball at you.
As you were bringing up the Bulls, I think of Alonzo Ball, the poor guy, out 6 to 8 weeks, whatever, and we hope for a speedy recovery for that. But I think because, the Bulls have been used to having star players down and out before, Kobe White, for example, they're going to be able to adjust to the situation. So if Bulls fans are nervous right now, I wouldn't be totally nervous. They have gone through a lot this year, and they're at the top. So I wouldn't worry too much. I think, Billy Dobbin, he knows what he's doing. So I would keep the trust in the coaching staff for this one for sure. And yeah, hockey's getting exciting again for the Blackhawks. That's awesome to see considering all they've been through this season too. So it's a great weekend for sports here, I think.
A couple of quick things, as Lakeena said before we call it quits. A shout out to Adam Johns and Kevin Fishbane. Both of them covered the Chicago Bears for the Athletic. They had a great article this week talking about the Matt Nagy era. Let me just say this. The only thing that came out to me, that stuck out to me in that article is Matt Nagy. You can call it the case of mistaken identity. He tried to be this generation's Mike Ditka, making Trubisky look way worse than what he was. We all knew Trubisky had his issues, but he wasn't really the only problem. Matt Nagy, you were the problem. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, read the article from The Athletic from earlier this week. That's all I had to say about that. So Matt Nagy, a tale of two, perhaps three types of people. I'll just leave it at that.
No, I agree. I've always said that Mitch wasn't the problem. It's how he's being coached right now. So Mitch honestly could have been the guy for the Bears, but they messed him up. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, should the Bills upset the Chiefs? Mitchell Trubisky, who's currently the backup with Buffalo, he could be headed to the AFC title game, and he'll give Matt Nagy and everybody else the finger, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. And I also heard he could be with the Browns next year. That would be a good fit, I feel like. That's another rumor circling, if they don't get Baker.
Yeah, that's good. It's definitely going to be interesting in what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I think there was some truth to like maybe, he did, Nagy did stand him up, but because he wasn't his guy from the word jump, but
even though he knew that he had to coach him when he was hired here,
right?
So I can't give Matt Nagy out on that one. He knew he had to coach Trubisky when he was hired here.
That's fair, but let's cross to you. You're bringing him up, Christine. Another great article by John Grieber. We got to try to get him on from The Athletic. He actually put down the odds of who he thinks should replace him. Some names are being thrown around. Of course, our buddy Mark Grody. Also to Herb Lawrence. Herb's already said that he doesn't want to do it.
My God, Herb.
Yeah, he already said on Twitter that he doesn't want to do it, so he has a hard time producing.
No, I think he likes his vibe with Lawrence at the moment. But but that would be great. Oh man, I love Herbie. Herbie's great. But that's a big position to fill. You're talking a legendary guy in the Chicago sports media. That's going to be a tough position to fill. I would hope that the Score would at least wait a couple months to fill that position. I know that's terrible for programming and for a program director. That's terrible. but it's like it's such a big loss, and it's so unexpected too. So you got to feel for them at this point.
Yeah, also too, I know I saw that article too, Lakeena. Shout out to our guys, Damon Spruill and Kenneth Davis, i.e. the D and Davis show. They filled in a couple of times the last couple of years, the last year and a half for Les's show. I know that I know some people, including yours truly, want to see them succeed if they can get that gig. So, program director at 670 School, who I happen to meet a couple of times, Mitch Rose. He's a very good guy. He has a tough job, a challenging job, but like you said, Christine, he's going to take his time in to do this because most stations around the country on weeknights, whether it's an ESPN radio station or Fox Sports Radio or CBS Sports Radio, most of these big markets overnights they pull the switch and go to national programming. Chicago, not 1,000, but 670 Score, they go local overnight. So it looks like they're going to keep it that way. It's just Mitch Rosen is going to have it's a challenging time, obviously, because the death just happened. But I think he'll make the right decision, whoever it is, to take over overnights, weeknights on the Score.
And that's a tough position too, because you think, my schedule, getting up at early mornings is tough. Just imagine working until 5 o'clock in the morning. That's a tough shift.
When I first started in this business, real quick, I worked at a religious station overnights, midnight to 6. Some people say working overnights and early mornings would take years off your life. That is so true. And you wanted to be entertained because you starting your day or you're just wrapping up your day. Shout out to all my third shifters, as Jonathan Hood would say. Because you listen to sports radio to get away from your everyday life and things of that nature. And so for overnights, you want to keep it fun, keep it affordable, but keep it fun as well. So you're trying to attain an audience.
I don't know how Les was able to do it. He did it for like 12 years. I don't know. Like you have to think about the scheduling too. I mean, the schedule, bed, eating and stuff like that. I don't know how he was able to do it.
Yeah, it was many nights he would cover during this time, which is the winter time now. He would cover a Blackhawks game or a Bulls game. Then that night, those games, Lakeena, they will wrap up at 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. He had to get to the studio by midnight. Yeah. So and some of those nights when they didn't have the Score at that time. I know they had the White Sox for a while, but if they didn't have a White Sox game or a Cubs game, which that's the flagship station now for the Cubs radio, they didn't have a game that night. He'll start at 10 o'clock, go all the way up to 5. It was definitely not. It's not just because Les had great sports knowledge of Chicago sports, but it was definitely the callers that kept those longer shows going. Because I don't know how you do it for 7 hours. Lakeena, we do it for 2 hours. But for twice a week, I don't know how Les did it for 6-7 hours. But big ups to him. He'll definitely be missed.
It's crazy, but look, like you said, like you guys said, I think Mitch will wait a few months, to find the right person. Does he do a 2 or 3 person, thing, booth? I mean, that might be the best way to go at this point, but I'm not, look, he's a PD and not me, so that's the direction I would go. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. So, and with that said, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Christine, where can the lovely people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at CManika_KXRB.
All right. No, go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you follow the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, by subscribing to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you follow War Media on all social media platforms at WAR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes, and make sure you tune into Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here, live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you young folks would say, Christine.
No, make sure you look.
Make sure you listen to Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. And shout out to Matt Verderam from Fansided.com. He's the NFL insider. He was gracious enough with his time to join us today to give us his picks for an NFL divisional playoff weekend. Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely. Make sure, check him out on his podcast as well, wherever you get your podcast.
Stack the box.
Yep. So it's a great podcast with another good buddy, Mark Carmen. We got to try to get him on. Also, too, his name's also been brought up, and perhaps maybe a replacement. I know he's an IL too. I'm sure he probably would love to do it, but we'll see what happens there. But for Sid and Christine, I know the weather's getting a little crazy out there in the East, so just stay safe out there. If you're not going to get vaccinated, wash your hands. Just be good to each other. I'm Lakeena and Sid. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you next week.
Doubles. Holla.